It is match day 4 of the English Premier League live here on Joy Sports and Multi TV. In 20 minutes, we're going to be going over to the Britannia Stadium for live action between Stoke City and Man City. Man City are naturally doing all the spending going into the new season, up to £100 million and beyond that they have spent. Maybe they are the only team who would come close to Tottenham Hotspurs, who have spent so much money acquiring new players. Our focus, though, is going to be on City and the Spurs. My pundits are ready, and in the next 20 minutes, we are going to be assessing the chances of the two teams going into this afternoon's action. Nana is to my immediate left, regular pundit on this show, and of course, Christopher Opoku also joins us as well as we build up to this game. Guys, good to see you.
Great to be here.
Great to be here.
Well, these days, I mean, maybe in the last 3 years, you would say that any team that is going into a game against a team like Man City would have to look at the team and wonder whether they stand a chance against them. They have been spending. They've spent quite an amount of money on new players, and from what we get with the confirmation of the starting 11, two players who came in with over £40 million spent on them, Stevan Jovetic and Alvaro Negredo, are going to be starting ahead of Edin Dzeko and Sergio Aguero, who themselves came in for a combined total of over £60 million. Nana, Man City these days, when you play against them, you need to watch out.
Well, you've got to be wary, obviously, and they're a team that can afford to almost buy any player. But so far, it hasn't been the delight that we've expected from last season. Despite the fact that they are battling through three matches, that's all. They have not had the start that they anticipated, and in fact, it's the likes of Liverpool who are on top instead of Manchester City. But they've got a lot of armoury there. You look at their bench, there's a lot of quality on their bench. I think Dzeko really should start. I mean, it's a great player who gets himself in between defenders and the goalkeeper and just seems to be nodding them in time after time. But he's on the bench, so if Manchester City have difficulties in dealing with Stoke City, you can trust the manager to bring on the likes of Dzeko and trust him to deliver as well.
Chris, there are those who would say that it's early days yet. It's only 3 matches into the league season, up to 35 more matches to go. So though City may have dropped points in their last game on the road against Cardiff City, there's nothing really to worry about.
I think Pellegrini has brought in calm, whereas it was a bit of mayhem under Mancini, who didn't seem to be able to know how to manage the egos in the dressing room. I think that Pellegrini has done that in a calm, understated way. And just to touch a bit on what Nana was saying, Alvaro Negredo fully deserves his place in the starting lineup for one reason. He has been on fire for both club and country. And perhaps Dzeko scored more goals off the bench last season than when he actually started for Manchester City. So this is not a decision that surprises me. What surprises me is that Aguero has been left on the bench. I don't know, I'm hearing there's a bit of a twinge, a bit of a small injury, which is why Jovetic is playing just behind.
Champions League coming up as well.
Yeah. So Pellegrini has to manage his side, and with the record he has in the Champions League, I mean, this is a sensible selection. His Achilles heel is going to be at the back. Vincent Kompany is out. There's no Julian Lesko today. It's going to be Javi Garcia and Matija Nastasic. That could be a problem because defensively, that is where they are strong. And Joe Hart has not really been himself in recent games. Even though he gave a solid outing against Ukraine in a World Cup qualifier, I don't think he's back to his best yet. And these are the few things that he'll probably want to exploit. Mark Hughes is returning to the side, whom he managed before he was sacked, and he's gotten Stoke playing better football. And surprisingly, both clubs are on 6 points. After Stoke lost to Liverpool, they've won their other 2 games, one away, one at home, without conceding, and they are playing better football for it. And Mark Hughes is beginning to mould Stoke City in his own image. I mean, it's a combination of the hard graft and grit with a bit of skill on the side, with a few players like Charlie Adam and the rest of them. But, I mean, Man City will start his game as favourites, but it's not going to be easy at the Britannia Stadium. It's going to be difficult.
It's going to be one hell of a game for Man City. They already struggled to get all 3 points when they travelled to Wales to play Cardiff earlier in the season. We'll pick up with some news from the camp of the two teams. We'll look at the team news briefly. That should be on the screen. And then we'll get to know who should be available for selection and who will not be available for selection as we confirm the starting 11 as well. Well, Stephen Ireland, the former City player, will look to make an impression on the team that dispensed with their services some seasons ago. And like like Chris did say, McHughes also has a chance to get one against his former club. He was managing Man City. He was dispensed with in 2010 to make way for Roberto Mancini. And this is the City team that goes into this game with practically everyone in defense in the treatment room. Vincent Kompany, like Chris did say, is not available for selection. Martin de Michelis was bought just a few hours to the end of the transfer season. He comes in, he's not gotten a game yet, and then he also makes his way to the treatment room as well.
He's injured. I mean, it's funny. Demichelis left Malaga for Atletico Madrid without playing a game. Then Man City go and buy him, and immediately he comes in training. He gets injured and is out for 6 weeks.
Exactly, and our playmaker David Silva as well. It's not going to be around. We understand that he's struggling with injury. Due to some international engagements in the course of last week. Spain involved in that 2014 World Cup qualifier against Finland, and of course that friendly international against Chile where they drew 2-2. Let's quickly look at the last 5 games of the two teams going into this game. And guys, you're going to be helping me with this one. Stoke City amazingly have won 4 of their last 5 games in all competitions. Man City, on the other hand, well, it's shocking, just 2 wins in their last 5 matches. Well, you would say that there are some that were not season games, some were preseason games going into the new season, but fantastic form for a team like Stoke City going into a game against a side like Man City, Nana, with 4 wins in their last 5 games. It doesn't come any better than that.
It doesn't. They'll be up for it, because I mean normally they don't win 2 games back to back, and they haven't done so for a very long time. But this time round, including the friendly matches, they have done that. But they're up for it. But it's going to be a very tough competition. I mean, Jones up front is very good for them. He's proven to be, you know, their star man, the arrowhead on the tip of their hour. And they will be looking to provide him with good service from the left and the right side. Walters combining well with him and linking up with Irvington and Adam to really add a lot of pressure to Manchester City. But, you know, I think overall, I think Man City psychologically are a team that is more psyched up for this match, this encounter, than Stoke. But they've got pure grit, they've got a lot of determination, and I think it's going to prove to be a big match.
Well, it's going to be proving to be a big match. Let's run through other details concerning this one. And for those are 2 teams going into this game. This is the league table, and this is how they stand going into the game. Man City currently in 3rd place. They have goal difference of +5. They play 3 games like every other one. Stoke City, well, it's early days yet. They find themselves in 5th place, the same points with Arsenal and Tottenham. Well, those other teams are going to be involved in league action this weekend, so that might just change in the course of the season. The focus of our discussion clearly going to be on Man City. Let's get to see the second half of the table pretty quickly. There we are. Well, it's early days yet, so 3 after 38, not a clear indication of who might be beating a drop and who is going to be staying up for season 2014, season 2015. The focus, like I would say, is going to be on Man City. And talk of Man City, well, before they played this game, they played 2 games before this one. They played Cardiff City, where they lost by 3-2, and then of course got a result against Hull City, 2-0. We're going to be seeing the highlights of those games as my pundits help me run through this. Chris, City that starts the season very well. They defeated Newcastle United 4-0. I recall the first game. And then before they played this game where they beat Hull City by 2-0. I just wish we could have seen the Cardiff City game before this one because they played that game before this. Exactly. Thank you very much to my director. This was a game that if you met 9 out of 10 people, even in Wales, they would have said Cardiff stood no chance.
They definitely would have said that. I was privileged to watch that game, and Cardiff showed a lot of determination, a lot of grit. I mean, they came back very, very solidly against Manchester City. I think Manchester City were a bit shocked. They were given a bit of a shock. They didn't expect Cardiff City to come at them like that because they didn't have too much quality. But Fraser Campbell capitalized on 2 corner kicks, headed home 2 goals, and I think that kind of finished things. It was an excellent result for Malcolm Mackay. And Manchester City, I think, have been shown that it's not going to be easy. Excellent goal by Dzeko, which he fired. He's actually a left-footed player, so to see him fire with that right foot shows what sort of capabilities he has. But the way Cardiff came back at them was a joy to behold. And I mean, it clearly shows you there are no easy teams in the top flight, and Cardiff City did very, very well to actually get that win, to get it to 3-1 before they could actually win. This was the equalizing goal.
And these were the moments where question marks were being asked about that City defense without Vincent Kompany. All the other players in there, you have to say, are not really up there like, you know, the skipper of the club.
Let's call a spade a spade. Vincent Kompany is one of the best defenders in the world, full stop. When he is playing for Manchester City, he organizes that defense. But without him, there is no authority
the rest
figure.
Are pretty ordinary.
Yeah, and Joe Hart, who's supposed to be the man to take over, has not been in the best of forms himself. I mean, which is why Fraser Campbell was able to take advantage on 2 occasions to head home the goal. I mean, they are needing some leadership there. But I mean, you look at them; they all place. Lescott is at the far post, and yet he's beaten to it. I mean, that goes to show you they are lacking leadership at the back, and that is why I mentioned at the top of the program that could be an Achilles heel for Manchester City.
No, technically for a team like Man City, even without the likes of Vincent Kompany in defense, Julian Lescott played in this game. They played with Garcia, who we all do know is a midfielder. But against a team like Cardiff, with all due respect to them, you still think that City will be strong enough to get all 3 points? They didn't.
Well, I don't think we're actually giving the credit to Cardiff that we should have. This is a side that has gone through the Champions League, as it's called, and they won the majority of their home encounters. They were the team that won most home encounters, and they're very good at home. So City hadn't actually prepared very well for this encounter at Manchester City, at Cardiff. But, you know, the fact of the matter is that Cardiff win most of their home games. You know, so had Manchester City prepared very well, perhaps they might have got a draw out of it. But I don't think we should take credit from Cardiff, because when they play at home, they play very, very well.
Well, when they play at home, they play very well. So Cardiff getting a result, 3-2, that game ended against Man City. We'll get to see the game City played after this one, where they took on Hull City pretty shortly. And it was a game, Chris, that City had to bounce back if they really wanted to clearly state their intent of annexing the league title again.
Clearly, I mean, Pellegrini has been given a brief regain the title that Mancini lost to Manchester United, and that's what he wants to do. That's why they spent very early in the summer close to £100 million, and that's why they came back strongly. I mean, it was an excellent 2-0 win over Hull. I remember that free kick scored by Yaya Toure, which was absolutely fantastic, and they recovered quite well. But against Stoke City, you know, they make a lot of use of set pieces. Now, that is where I'm worried for them. If there's no company at the back and they don't get their act together, then that's where Stoke City could get at them. The long throw-ins, the crosses, the corner kicks. You've got the likes of Ryan Shawcross and Robert Huth who could get on the end of any of them and score. So it's a bit problematic for them. But if Javi Garcia and Mastacic can keep it close at the back, then it could be good for Manchester City. Otherwise, we're in for a thriller this afternoon.
Otherwise, we're in for a thriller. And talk about who may be likely to start this game. We've got a confirmation of the starting 11 of the 2 teams. For Man City, Hart is in there in defense. They have Zabaleta Kolarov, who is making his way into the starting 11 ahead of Gal Clichy. Garcia and Nastasic are in defense. Julian Lescott is only good enough for the bench this afternoon. And then in midfield, James Milner comes in. Samir Nasri comes in for David Silva, who is out injured for this game. Steve Rodwell, well, he came in with a lot of pomp from Everton, and I recall last season, £50 million spent on him. He's barely gotten a game. Yaturi is in there. Jovetic and Negredo, who have barely played together, get to start.
Yeah, but it's early days. Yeah, I mean, you know, there's going to be suspensions, there's going to be injuries, there's going to be weeks where in training some player shows better form than the other. So, I mean, there's not much to make out of that yet. It's just the 4th match.
This is just the 4th match. Let me just quickly run through the Stoke team that will be playing this afternoon. Asmir Begovic is in post. They have Peter Zahuth and Shawcross. Those 2 guys in defense are such hell for any striker on any day. Cameron is in there. Wilson and Zonzi, Adam Walters, Edmonton, and Jones. No place for Marko Arnautovic, who has made his way into the English Premier League from the German Bundesliga, playing for Werder Bremen last season. And no place for Crouchy as well. Chris?
Well, I'm not too surprised. I think the choice of Jones is better. Crouch uses his height, but for somebody so tall, sometimes he's not very good aerially. Whereas Jones can actually
Maybe they say
outjump
he's
him
too
in defense.
languid.
Yeah, a bit too languid. But Jones will close you down. He wouldn't give you time on the ball. And I'm sure Mark Hughes might have chosen Jones because he feels Jones can give the pair of Garcia and Astachit a lot of problems because he will close them down. He's very good aerially, and he can also fire a shot as well. So, and he is leading the line on his own in front of a 5-man midfield. And Stoke are trying to cover the bases at the back and at the same time have the license to move forward if they can. And if you look at the wingers that they're going to be using, I mean, you look at Matthew Etherington, brilliant left winger, and then down the right, of course, you've got Geoff Cameron, who will be attacking from right back. And Walters is actually going to be brilliant. I thought Pennant was going to get to start, but Jonathan Walters has shown that he can play anywhere across the midfield and sometimes even attack as well. Plus, he's a penalty expert. Fine, he got one saved against Liverpool, but he converts most of them. And he's also a tigerish player who would always fight, which is why I think Mark Hughes knows exactly what he's doing with this sort of lineup, and Man City have got to watch out.
City have got to watch out, and you'll get to see Yaya Touré's goal pretty shortly. He's contributed his own fair share of goals this season. Scored one brilliant free kick against Newcastle United on match day 1 and got us a brilliant one as well. And most importantly, though 11 players might be on the pitch, there would obviously be players who will be making a lot of difference into their team's effort. Doesn't come any better than this, Donna.
No, it doesn't, and Stoke have got to be very careful not to give away free kicks around the 18-yard box because, you know, Man City have got a selection of players that can do stuff like that with dead ball situation, and the last thing you want is Yaya Touré stepping up to the plate at any time at all during a 90-minute period to take a free kick like that. I mean, it's absolutely brilliant, isn't it?
We'll run through the players quickly who might just make a difference going into this afternoon's action with Man City first, Yaya Touré and Alvaro Negredo with the pundits pick for players who might just get to make a difference this afternoon. He's played 3 games already. He's got 2 goals, 5 shots on target. Well, he's yet to assist. But going into a game with this kind of record, well, he's definitely one you would want to have a second look at. And who is the other fella for Man City, Negredo? Chris, you didn't mention that he may not have started a City game this season yet, but 2 goals in 3, very good return.
Well, and he's doing the business for Spain as well. I mean, he's one of those strikers who is rarely noticed, but he does pack a shot. And he's also left-footed, interestingly enough, but he is a very good striker aerially. And that is something that I think Man City missed a bit when they sold off Mario Balotelli to AC Milan. It kind of robbed them a bit of firepower. Now he's come in. I mean, he's certainly going to do quite a bit for Manchester City, and it will be interesting to see how Shawcross and Huth look after him today because he's very physical. You can't really bully him off the ball, and that's a big plus from Manuel Pellegrini's side.
And that man, Ryan Shawcross, is also one of the players being profiled ahead of this game. Well, he started out with Manchester United many years ago. These days, the skipper of Stoke, and he's been playing brilliantly. He plays in defence, and to go past him, Nana, on any day, you'd have it tough.
You know the thing about him is his ability to read the game. So he doesn't put himself about whereby he concedes free kicks and that. It's timing and judgment. These are all critical things for him, especially in the position that he plays for. So as Chris says that he's going to try and have Negredo in his pocket, it's all going to be about the timing. And you'll see that he's not a player who'll dive in on Negredo. If Negredo's got possession, then he'll know how to shepherd him away from danger, and that's the quality of this type of player.
There's the quality of this type of player. Who else is being profiled for Stoke City? Steven Nzonzi, 24-year-old midfielder, contributing his fair share of effort to this Stoke City team. He seems to be one player, Chris, who does a lot of business, but pretty much goes unnoticed by fans.
I love him. I love him. I mean, when he was playing for Blackburn Rovers, I mean, he was one of the standout players in that team. And when Stoke bought him last season, I was like, no, they've got themselves a very good player. I mean, he will fight, he will tackle, and he can sometimes weigh in with his fair share of shots and sometimes goals as well. I mean, for me, he's a very good player for Stoke City to have in their midfield.
He's a very good player to have in the midfield. Pretty shortly, we're going to be bringing you live action from the Britannia Stadium in a game involving Man City and Stoke City. City failing to get a result in their first game on the road. They definitely wouldn't want to lose for a second time on the road. Guys, I'm going to be pushing you now. Who gets a result? Chris, first?
Tough one to call, but I think Manchester City just about edges it for me.
Man City for Chris, Nana, you?
It's the same thing.
Well, from where I do sit, it's going to be very difficult for me to stick out my neck. I would just want to laugh the game. A bit of technical hitch, but anytime shortly, we're going to be getting that game from the Britannia Stadium. Live action, match day 4 of the English Premier League. It's going to be Stoke versus Man City pretty shortly, and we apologize for that. As and when we do pick up the signals, we're going to be taking you straight to the Britannia Stadium, and then we get to enjoy the game. Do we have it? Do we have it? We should be getting that pretty shortly. But hey, this is a game that Man City would have to do their best to win if they would want their fans to believe that they have a team good enough to challenge the likes of Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, if you like. All these teams have started very, very well in the Premier League this season, and City wouldn't want to be dropping any more points. We're playing catch-up to these teams, especially on return from the international break, where World Cup qualifiers are still being sorted out. Guys, before we pick up the feed and we go into the stadium, two clubs going into a season, new managers, a lot of new managers around the English Premier League these days. What will be the effect on these guys on how their teams approach their games?
Well, I mean, the new managers always bring new philosophies, and you know, there's a transitional period whereby the old philosophy sometimes is done away with, or more often than not is merged with a new philosophy, because you know, you can't totally do away with the old philosophy of a club, especially when you got certain players in a club that, you know, are the pillars, represent the pillars of that club. So there's always a transitional period. It takes a little bit of time. It's always a bit edgy in the first, you know, five to 10 matches. But even before that, you see the pattern that starts arising in the play and in the number of victories that come up. And eventually, you know, things start leveling out and clubs start coming out on even keel.
Chris?
Well, I think they've had the benefit of pre-season to examine the club, so there have been some matches they've already been in charge of. And so now will probably be the time to say, okay, you've got to grips with the job, you can introduce your philosophies, you can get to grips with what you're actually doing, and you can take the team forward. So I think this side, in the EPL, most clubs appointed their managers a bit early, the new ones. And so they would have had enough time with their teams. And that's why Stoke City are doing quite well, because I think Mark Hughes has been able to instill his own philosophy into the team. Pellegrini has restored calm to the dressing room of Manchester City. I think he's not going to try to start introducing his philosophy, which is why he's waited until today to introduce Jovetic. If Jovetic does well today, then he will epitomize the sort of philosophy he would want to bring to Manchester City.
Well, let me just confirm the starting 11 of the two teams, and hopefully we'll get a signal by then. For Man City, they're playing with Joe Hart, Pablo Zabaleta, Kolarov, Garcia, and Nastasic in defense. In midfield, they have James Milner, Samir Nasri is there, Jack Rodwell, and Yaya Toure in there as well. In attack, they have Stevan Jovetic together with Alvaro Negredo. On their bench, they have the tall Romanian goalkeeper Panteleimon. Lescott Dedrick Boyata is there as well. Jesus Navas, Fernandinho, Dzeko, and Aguero. Do we have the feed now? Well, if we do, let's go over to the Britannia Stadium to pick up live action between Man City and Stoke City.